Hey guys, this is Matt Wilson for my my next rock video on my channel, and today we're doing the Kinks. The Kinks are one of the truly great British invasion bands, or just British bands, period. They've had a long career. They're rumored to be getting back together soon, as of this is 2024. So I'm going to do the first 20 years of the Kinks, 64 to 84. I have all the albums, all the studio albums anyway. I'm missing Live at Kelvin Hall, but that's okay. So I'm going to start. First one, this is a Mobile Fidelity gold disc of the first two albums, Kinks, or You Really Got Me as it was called in the States, and Kinda Kinks. It's nice. It's mono and stereo, but you want all these early Kinks albums in mono. I don't know why they... I mean, I take the first album, for instance. I don't even know if that was ever even officially released in stereo at the time. You know, could have researched this before I started the video, but I'll show you what you want. This does me just fine. Here's the first album, the Kinks. This is director Wim Wenders' favorite album, not just his favorite Kinks album. It's pretty good. It's another one of those, you know, mid-60s British album where they do a lot of covers of African-American material. Debatable whether, you know, they're really better than the originals, but, you know, props to them for introducing that music to teenagers globally. It's not a bad album. It's not as good as what the Stones and the Beatles were doing at the time, but you know, it's got You Really Got Me, and that's one of the, you know, seminal songs of the '60s. You know, it's almost the birth of garage rock, although you could say Louie Louie is the same thing. All of these mono stereo twofers that I'm showing you are two discs with tons of bonus tracks, and they do me just fine. There is a big Kinks in mono box set, which I didn't buy because I have all the stuff in mono on these twofers. I think I've read somewhere that the sound quality is better on the big box set, but again, folks, the Kinks are so far from an audiophile band that I'm not going to worry about, you know, oh, this CD just sounds a little bit better than this one over here. I'm happy with these. All right, so you know, first album, mono, stereo, tons of bonus tracks. This is what you want. This was their sole release in 1964. The second album, Kinda Kinks, another mono, stereo twofer, gives you, I don't know, I mean, half the stuff or more that they released in 1965. There's another album coming up soon, which I'll get to in a second. I'm not going to say that this is better than the first album. Again, it's just more of the same. Got my feet on the ground. I like Nothing in the World Can Stop Me from Worrying About That Girl. That's a great one. Woman, Wonder Where My Baby Is Tonight. So Tired of Waiting for You is a great song. Dancing in the Street, the Motown number. Come on now. So maybe some, you know, less cover versions on here, but Ray has not really found his level yet in terms of being a brilliant songwriter. But this one cool thing about this, and this is what I will recommend this more than I'll recommend the first album, twofer anyway. This has lots of cool bonus tracks. Everybody's Gonna Be Happy, that was a hit. Who'll Be the Next in Line, that was a hit. Set Me Free, that was I Need You. These are brilliant songs. See My Friends, kind of a Eastern drone in that. A Well-Respected Man. I Go to Sleep, which the Pretenders did. When I said, I mean, yeah. In terms of the bonus tracks, this is probably a better purchase than this. But the Kinks are so great, guys. Get them all. Don't just stop with one or two of these things. This is their second album, 1965, the Kink Controversy. You know, by this point, they're doing it for the second album too. They're spelling everything with a K. You know, controversy. This is the best of the first three Kinks albums. I read somewhere where this is Little Steven Van Zant's favorite album, or favorite Kinks album, one or the other. It's good. Came out in later 1965. It's not as good as the first Who album, but I like it a lot. Milk Cow Blues, they the old song that Elvis did. They did this one really well. Ring the Bells is good. When I See That Girl in My, I Am Free, Till the End of the Day, that's one of their great numbers. I'm on an Island, Where Have All the Good Times Gone, which Van Halen covered. All right, so same thing, mono, stereo. This is a better album than the first two. So they're getting better and better, in other words. All right, the first time Ray is an out-and-out genius in essaying an entire LP is 1966's Face to Face. This is a great album, start to finish. This is one of the awesome albums of the mid-60s to come from Britain. Can't speak highly enough of it. Again, mono, stereo, twofer. Party Line, Rose Won't You Please Come Home, Dandy, which the Hermits had a hit with, Too Much on My Mind, Session Man, Rainy Day in June, House in the Country, Holiday in Waikiki. These are all great songs. It's just one after another. Fancy was brilliant. And, of course, the immortal Sunny Afternoon, which is, that's genius. Ray had a way of writing about laziness, which is just, being a lazy man myself. I really like that. And then bonus tracks, Dead End Street, that's essential. Big Black Smoke, I think that's a B-side. This Is Where I Belong. She's got everything. Some of these songs, would be on the Kink Chronicles in 1972, which I don't have because you can get all those songs elsewhere. I think all but one. So I just compiled my own. But you get them all on these twofers, and brilliant stuff. If you're looking at British Invasion era bands and you're looking at ranking them, well, obviously the Beatles and the Stones are going to be 1 and 2. The question is, who's number 3? And with me, it's the Kinks or the Who. And I've gone back and forth. I mean, being an American and growing up in the 70s, we certainly heard the Who on the radio more than we heard the Kinks. The funny thing is, though, the Kinks were bigger in America in the mid-60s. The Who slowly gained prominence, having... The Who only had one top 10 hit in this country in 1967, but the Kinks started off, having big hits. So, anyways, I won't spend too much time on the Who. I will do a future show on them. Today is the Kinks, and this is a brilliant record. If I was going to make my list of the top 10 albums of 1966, this would be on it. All right, perhaps even better. Something else by the Kinks. Mono, stereo, twofer again. David Watts, Jam covered that. Death of a Clown, which was Dave Davis's first hit. Two Sisters, No Return, Harry Rag, Tin Soldier Man. All these songs are brilliant, folks. Situation Vacant, Lazy Old Sun, Afternoon Tea, End of the Season, and then of course the immortal Waterloo Sunset, which is, some might say, is the greatest song that Ray Davis ever penned. Mr. Pleasant, Susanna's Still Alive. Great stuff. Autumn Almanac. Wow, that's a great song too. If you just want to cherry pick these 60s Kinks albums, get this one, get Face to Face. These are both classic. All right? Again, one of the great albums of 19 '67, which was a year which had no shortage of brilliant records. Okay, the next one is the Kinks or the Village Green Preservation Society. This is a triple album or a triple disc set. You get it in stereo and mono, obviously, and then rarities on disc 3. This is most people's favorite Kinks album. If you're gonna put the genius tag on Ray Davies, it doesn't start here, but this is like exhibit number 1. This is virtually a concept album, though it's not, of like homages to medieval England and small town life, and he's coming up with all this stuff when everybody else is Paisley, Dayglow, psychedelic. People like Ray Davies or Bob Dylan never really went psychedelic, and they look good now for being able to do that. It's like they did not succumb to pressure or trends. This album, the incredible thing about this album, it never even charted. Well, it didn't chart in America. It never even charted in England. At the time, they couldn't tour here. They were having issues, so they were just relying on their albums, and their albums weren't. This was probably just inherently too English, too British to sell in mass quantities here. But they always had a strong cult following, so that when they did begin to tour again in 1969, their audience was waiting for them. Anyways, I love this. This is my favorite one. This is what made me a Kinks fanatic, actually, although I had heard something else before this. I won't even go over the song titles because they're all brilliant. But for the bonus tracks, Mr. Songbird, Days is brilliant. Misty Water, Barkley Muse, those would be on the Great Lost Kinks album, I think. Another one that I'll get to, just like Kink Chronicles, brilliant stuff in 72, 73, where they were releasing Kinks albums which were comprised of 60s recordings. Rosemary Rose, Wonder Boy, Where Did My Spring Go, Groovy Movies, Creepin' Jean, Dave Davis stuff. Again, this should be the first purchase you make. If you don't want to get a Kinks compilation, get this. If you don't like this, you might not be a Kinks fan. It just might not be in the cards for you. And to round out the 60s, I told you I didn't have 1967's Live at Kelvin Hall. Arthur, more brilliance. This is another twofer. This also has the mono soundtrack. I'm not showing you the, I don't know if you can even see that, but the mono mix, not so great on Arthur. This is going to be one of those ones where I'm going to prefer the stereo mix. But what a brilliant album. Again, just like Village Green, I'm not even going to go into the songs because they're all great. There is not a filler track on here, just like there wasn't on Village Green. Bonus tracks, Plastic Man was a hit. This Man, He Weeps Tonight, Mindless Child of Motherhood. Creeping Jean was on the last one. It's great stuff. Great stuff. And by 1969, you probably didn't have too many true mono mixes of albums anymore. So at least the mono mix here is a rarity. Okay. The 70s dawned, and Davis was still a great songwriter. I mean, I like this one a lot too. This is Lola versus Power Man and the Money Go Round. Yes. There's not a bad track on here. It may not quite be as brilliant as the preceding albums, but this is great stuff. They're on a different label now, right? So this is not part of the same reissue campaign as the previous stuff, but there's a few bonus tracks on here, but this is the one that has Lola on it, which was a big hit here in the States. Kind of like a comeback for them, and they were touring here again, so they were picking up a new audience. Not brilliant, but a great album. A great album. I know people that think that this is one of their best albums. So there you go. I mean, they certainly weren't losing any fans at this point. Percy is a soundtrack album that they did to a film I've never seen. It's not essential, but it's got some great songs on here. God's Children, The Way Love Used to Be, Animals in the Zoo. I mean, I wouldn't be without it, right? It's not anything that you have to have. It's probably not even as interesting as the two Floyd soundtracks I was talking about the other day, More and Obscured by Clouds, but it's got some brilliant songs on here, so it's part of the collection. You gotta have it. After this, a change of label. Doesn't stop Ray's greatness though. This is Muswell Hillbillies. Again, love it. No hits on here, but totally solid album, no weak tracks. This is 1971, folks, and he is still basically one of the truly great songwriters in rock, and had been since the mid-60s. So these albums, you know, the ones I've been mentioning, especially from 66 on through 71, are the reason why Ray Davies is held in such high regard. 20th Century Man, Holiday, Alcohol. Yeah, they had other songs about alcohol. Have a cup of tea. I like all these songs. Just as strong as the Lola album, if not stronger. If you read Ray's autobiography, what was it called? X-Ray? He talked a lot about this album. So it meant something to him. Okay, 1972, we have, this is a Mobile Fidelity version of Everybody's in Showbiz, right? Yeah. This is half live, half studio, which was, you know, the rage at the time. Probably started with Wheels of Fire, right? Cream, 1968. And this same year, you know, we had the Allman Brothers, Eat a Peach. This is a good album. This is underrated. I don't know how many people rate this highly, but I think it's great. Maybe not as good as the previous two albums, but still solid. And again, 1972, I mean, you know, by then, John Lennon was fumbling with Sometime in New York City. Pete Townsend didn't do a Who album, although he did have a solo album. All right, I'll try not to mention the Who anymore. Dylan wasn't doing anything. You know, Ray Davies was still a strong songwriter at this time. This has some American hits. I gotta be able to read this. I like sitting in my hotel. Supersonic Rocket Ship and Celluloid Heroes, and half of it's live. And the live stuff's pretty good. So this is the first live Kinks that I own, because I don't have the Kelvin Hall LP. I like it, folks. I like it. Now, before we move on, I told you that I don't have the Kinks Kink Controversy. Totally recommend it though. I don't know if it's remastered, or if you own all the previous albums and you just want to create it yourself on a playlist. That's what I did. I still think that there's one song though that I don't have, but anyways, you can do the same thing with this. This is the Great Lost Kinks album, came out in 1973. Some previously released stuff, some stuff that had not been released. Again, all from the 60s though. I made this myself on a playlist because this CD I have, this is a bootleg, I'm pretty sure. Classic Remasters Records, yeah, that's not official. So, but this is practically a 5-star record, just like King Controversy is. So, Till Death Do Us Part, There Is No Life Without Love, Lavender Hill, Groovy Movies, Rosemary Rose, Misty Water, Mr. C. These are all good songs. When I Turn Off the Living Room Light, etc. I'm not gonna. But if you don't feel like picking this up on CD, and I'm not necessarily gonna nudge you toward this, I do recommend that you make a playlist of these songs, though, if you've got all these Kinks 60s twofers, or you know, as many as you can. Now, the tale changes. In 1973, it had bound to happen sooner or later, Ray begins to have an infatuation with these concept albums. I don't know whether he'd been looking at Pete Townshend's success with Tommy and Quadrophenia or whatnot, but he, I can do that. So this is the first one. This is Preservation Act 1, 1973. It's fairly average to me, folks. I've tried with this record, and it would just be the first of a handful of concept albums that he would do the next few years. It's a lot to take in. I mean, if memory serves, it's kind of based on the character or one of the characters that he had started in the Village Green album, Johnny Thunders. Is it? I can't remember now. But I'm not going to even look at the song titles because I don't know this album well enough to really tell you what's great on here. I mean, yeah, I barely remember some of these songs. Flash, there you are. Flash was the character that he's singing about. All right. But 1973, which is the year this came out, is redeemed by this album. The Kinks' decline, was not apparent yet, because this saves the day. But you can't say that for 1974, where we have Preservation Act 2. This was a double LP. It is a sequel to Preservation Act 1. This is a double CD. People who really like the Preservation albums tell me this is better. I probably spent even less time with this than I have with the first one. Although I might be able to tell you a good song or two on this one. I don't want to spend too long looking at this. No, I honestly don't recall these songs. Wow. Well, anyways, now it makes me kind of want to play these Preservation albums again, just to give them one more chance, because it's been a few years. And when I say a few years, it could have been 10 years since the last time I played one of these records. But, you think, well, maybe he got this out of his system. No, he did not. Because in 1972, there were 2 more concept albums. Soap Opera, I might as well just do them at the same time, and Schoolboys in Disgrace. I couldn't even tell you which one I like more. I probably played Schoolboys in Disgrace more, because if memory serves, it rocks a little harder. But I don't know what he was doing, what he was thinking. I think he even said in the book of his that I read, X-Ray, that he didn't know what he was thinking in these years. But and I know that there are Kinks fans who really enjoy these albums. So I don't want to get any hatred manifested towards me, but I'm just saying they're not for me. I can see how theoretically Ray could have been a guy to write a concept album, but not by the mid 70s when he began to do it. I don't know. Maybe he could have made Muswell Hillbillies a concept album or something, or the Lola. I don't know. So that's 75. Yes, there is no Kinks album in 76, is there? He comes back with Sleepwalker in 77. Some say this is a return to form. He's certainly writing more non-concept LP songs. It's not bad. Basically what they're becoming at this point, if maybe not quite yet, but it is like an arena rock band in the States. You know how I was saying in the Jefferson Airplane or Starship video that Paul Kantner kind of cynically had decided by that point, I'm just going to get on, with being a musician and being a successful musician and having the limos and the girls and when he was forming Jefferson Starship. I'm wondering if Ray Davis didn't have a similar epiphany at the time where he just, okay, no more concept albums. My legacy is losing its luster. Time to just get on with it and start rocking again and doing simpler things. So Sleepwalker is a step in that direction, but he's not quite there yet. Jukebox Music, yeah, I remember that one at least. And it had been a while since radio had played any Kinks material. Okay, probably more popular to most fans is Misfits. Some people say Misfits is a really good album. I got a friend who swears by this record. I like it. I like it more than I like Sleepwalker, but I still don't love it. God, again. Misfits is not a bad song. Black Messiah. God, I really can't see the song titles. Oh well. Looking at it right now, folks, I don't even remember hardly any of these songs. So, you can see, which one was Rock and Roll Fantasy? Oh well. Was Rock and Roll Fantasy low budget? Oh well. That one I remember. Misfits I recall as being better than Sleepwalker. But it's still not great. You know, but they're slowly gaining more and more popularity, you know, than to what they had lost a few years prior. Okay, this one is my favorite of the, you know, later 70s Kinks comeback albums. This is a Mofidelli version of Low Budget. I remember, you know, when this was released, and I had a girlfriend who liked it. So, and the radio played these songs. Attitude's great. Catch Me Now I'm Falling. Pressure. Wish I Could Fly Like Superman. Wow, there's a lot of Low Budget's great. Yeah, this was the most popular, and I think I read somewhere this is their biggest selling album, or was at the time. I don't know. So, 1979, Low Budget. I recommend this one. 1980. This is not a bad record. Yeah, One for the Road. Seems like other bands have used that same title. Live, I remember they used to play the live version of Lola from this L-O-L-A from this record. Not a bad little career overview with some cool stuff on here. You know, Prince of the Punks, Stop Your Sobbing goes back to the 60s. To the end of the day, dun, 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 dun. I wouldn't mind playing this album right now. I like live albums. I know some people don't. I'm always surprised when I read online that someone says, I just don't like live albums. Really? Live music is the whole raison d'etre of rock and roll. 1981, a personal fave of mine. Give the people what they want. Dun-dun-dun-dun. I like this more than I like Low Budget. I like virtually every song on here. This was a popular album when I was in high school. I knew Kinks fans by then, but they weren't, I don't even know if the Kinks fans I knew at the time in the early 80s were into 60s Kinks or early 70s Kinks, when I still believe now, you know, that's where they went at their peak. They liked this era of the Kinks. Around the Dial is a great song. You used to play that on the radio. Title track, Predictable's good. Destroyer, that was a radio staple. Back to Front, Better Things. This is a strong album. Stronger than any Who album. In the 80s anyway. All right. Okay, State of Confusion, 83, I think. Well, Come Dancing. That alone, I'm sure, made this sell. That was an MTV hit. So the Kinks were mattering again, briefly, right? Or at least they were gaining new audience. I remember a friend of mine talking to me about the Kinks at the time and saying, "Wow, Come Dancing, these guys haven't had a hit in, you know, like 15 years, right?" And like he wanted me to confirm. I said, "Yeah, but they've still got good material since Lola," or whatever song he was referring to. I like it. It's not as good as the previous album, but not bad, not bad. And lastly, it's an easy video, right? Not that many CDs. Is Word of Mouth. Again, they were playing songs from this album on the radio. Do It Again is good. Living on a Thin Line was the one that I used to hear. And again, I'm just going to cut off right now the same way that I cut off Zappa in 81. After this, Ray started to release solo albums. so that way I don't have to get into any solo albums. Now, Dave Davis had already released a handful, 3, I think, solo records in the early 80s. I don't own any of them, so nor have I even heard them, so I can't comment on them. But, you know, thus endeth the first 2 decades of the Kinks. One could make a Kinks compilation with a K as good as virtually any bands. If you were just going to cherry pick the best stuff, and obviously it would be 60s and maybe even early 70s heavy, but it would be every bit as strong as, I keep returning to the Who because it might not be as strong as the Stones, but Ray Davis must have at least written 50 great songs, maybe more. That's a lot. That's enough to put him in the Hall of Fame. So anyways, I've been a Kinks fan pretty much my whole life. There aren't that many of us. You think that for a major band of that stature, they'd be loved everywhere, and they are. But when I go online and I'm going to these websites that I sometimes name drop to you guys, there's always people, and even some Brits, who don't like the Kinks. So it's like, wow, Anyways, hope I've turned you on to something that you didn't previously know today, or maybe you're going to go out and pick up one of these Kinks albums. And if so, I've done my duty. Ciao.